listening to Jai Long, and this is Make Your Break. Whether you're a big-hearted creative or an aspiring entrepreneur, let's take action on your dreams, reconnecting you with your why and giving you the how. I'm here to dish out actionable mindset tips and fun industry secrets to help you blow up your biz. From eye-opening reality checks to motivational gold, no two episodes are ever the same. So tune in weekly, skip the FOMO, and let's dive into the deep together. Hey, so I've got Rick here. Rick is based in the Yarra Valley in Melbourne. I actually got to meet Rick a little while ago. We joined the business map, and I have just heard that he's got some services for VAs and for setting up workflows and things like that. So wanted to get him on the podcast because let's be honest, guys, if we're creative entrepreneurs, it's not all about doing admin work all the time. And many of us are photographers and we just want to get out there and start shooting. So I want to rack Rick's brain a little bit around what we can do right now to outsource and if we are ready to outsource and how we can take our business to another level. But before we do that, let's get in and find out who Rick is. So, hey, Rick, man, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jai. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Hey, could you just kind of introduce yourself a little bit, who you are and what you're about?
So I'm a wedding photography based in the. I'm a wedding photography. Good start, Rick. Photographer based in the Yarra Valley, man, as you said. But most importantly to me, anyway, as I said, I'm a dad of the most beautiful little girl and a husband to my wife Nadia. And those two people are the humans that I'm always trying to serve first and foremost. And I had to really catch myself when I started to notice that I stopped being as present a father and husband as I wanted to. I think we've got this incredible superpower really when it comes to being an entrepreneur. So anyone listening to this podcast is probably out there because they know how to take on a business, how to run things themselves, how to look for opportunities, how to find the gold there, how to basically teach themselves anything. They know how to save themselves costs by learning to do things themselves. And so it's this really amazing thing that we can do to start our business. But there really comes a point, I think, when those skills start to become a curse. And our necessity to kind of be in charge of everything in our business and to not hand over the reins to anyone else, to think that we are the only people that can look after it. I mean, the business is our baby. We gave birth to it. So who else to work on it than us? But if you're at a point where, you start to notice that you're actually working so hard on that business that you're neglecting the life you wanted to start for yourself. So when you obviously think about becoming a wedding photographer and shoot one day and have the rest of the week off, it sounds like an absolute dream. But then as you're sitting there on Instagram for 3 hours trying to please that algorithm, and you've got either your partner, your child, someone wanting your attention, and you can't give it to them because you need to respond to comments straight away. You need to be on there at that 6 o'clock time when everyone else in the family is getting home from work, and that's when you need to be engaging on emails the entire time, on editing your shots because you don't think anyone else can do it. And man, you really quickly approach burnout. So I think what I'm trying to set up here is an avenue to actually get back to what we should be focusing on. That's shooting weddings and living life the way that we intended when we first started the business.
That's really cool. So the whole thing kind of stemmed from you recognizing in your own personal life that you're spending too much time on the admin work and you wanted to sort of get back to the life that you dreamt of?
That's right, man. There was actually one defining moment where my daughter had been trying to talk to me, asking me to play with her. And my wife heard her doing that and then come into the room and just tell me, like, Rick, you're ignoring your daughter. Like, how could whatever you're doing right now be more important than that? She was absolutely right. And the thing was, like, I was successful in terms of like my business. Like, I was getting leads, I was booking weddings, I was busy, and I guess I got hung up then on just chasing that, just trying to be as successful as I could be without, I guess, changing the focus or changing the goals to actually no, this, even at this point of success, this isn't actually where I want to be. So I had to start making some big changes there because I didn't like who I was becoming or where I was becoming.
I love that. So For you to solve that problem, was it really like sort of looking out and seeing if you could find some help with your business? And I guess for you, it looks more like instead of hiring someone full time and expanding your business, it was more like, how could I outsource instead of insource?
Right, man, I just had to assess the tasks that I was doing and say which ones of these tasks are ones that somebody else could be doing for me, which are procedural, which are things that I could teach someone else to do, and which tasks don't actually involve my brain or my need to be doing them. And it turns out there was actually a ton of those tasks. And the more I got to
Mm.
get off my shoulders, the more I got to automate, the more I got to outsource, just the more relief I felt. And then there's just been such amazing ripple effects because now the opportunity that I can have to find other ways to grow and scale my business, other ways to spend my time, other ways to hang out with my friends. Like it's just this incredibly, I don't know, snowballing effect of benefits, which we're so reluctant to do. I understand it because, yeah, like I said before, you want to be in charge of everything. You want to save as many pennies as you can by doing things yourself. But the opportunity cost of doing that is just this unbelievable amount of scaled revenue and scaled time.
So if you're going off that, do you feel like getting back that time and energy, has that helped your business grow?
Oh, dude, for sure. Funnily enough, I haven't shot a wedding since June, thanks to our lockdowns. But I'm in the happiest place in my business I've ever been in terms of where it's taking me, and it's all thanks to being able to outsource.
Yeah, that's incredible. Hey, why do you think? Because I know, so like I mentor thousands of wedding photographers, and I know I'm always sort of saying like we need to get to a place where we grow a business and we create opportunities for other people and we can outsource stuff so we can get back that life. But why do you think people get stuck and hung up, and why they don't actually get to a point where they want to let go of some of these tasks?
Because we are the ones that created this business. This isn't one that we've come into and we're working for someone else, and then so we're not really that attached to those tasks. But this is our business. This is how we're getting represented to the world, to our couples. So we're so much hinges on it being done right, and we've always basically done it that way since we've begun. And I think combining that with possibly some bad experiences, because the thing is, when
Mm.
you do get a VA, it's not just a super quick fix. You can't just take someone on and then they're already in their head and in your head, and they know exactly how to do things that you want them to do. It's actually a bit of training involved, on their part, but also on yours. So you need to learn how to start creating procedures, basically standard operating procedures, how to train them to get into your head, how to walk them through what you're thinking. And if you're not trained in doing that, and if that's not a practice that you've done, then you're going to have a bad time. It won't be successful. So until they can come to the table knowing as much as they can about you and what you want, you'll probably have a hard time outsourcing anything, and you'll probably stop doing it and go back to your burnout ways.
Hey, so I was reading this book the other day. It was talking about high performers, and one thing that high performers do, they were saying how they were like really surprised with all the research that they did. And they said that high performers, no matter where you put them, in what business, with what team, they always going to achieve and they always end up on top. And it was really fascinating. But they said one of the things they have, where most people have skills and they don't want to let go of their skills, high performers always build people. And so they empower people with skills. Instead of them finding all the skills, they empower people with skills. And so if you, and I guess that just comes down to being a leader, but if you're in a team and you've got resources of people, the person that can bring together the team to get to one common goal is the person that's always going to outperform everybody else. Do you think for ourselves to get to a bet like the best level and version of ourselves to become a leader for our business and for our clients and to show up more with client experience and stuff, we need to learn how to let go a little bit and also build a team of professionals around us to help us take things to another level?
Oh, mate, for sure. And you know what? I think we've actually already got a lot of those skills as wedding photographers. Because when you show up on a wedding day and there's shit going wrong, it's raining, bride's panicking, man, she's in chaos, venue staff don't know whether to have the ceremony inside and outside. And if you're, if you're already a wedding photographer, you've probably already got those skills to look out see what assess the big picture, nurse people into the best case scenario, look at the positives, focus on those, and actually get, I don't know, the best outcome of what you have. You can look at something and all right, this is a bad circumstance, but I think we can turn this around. And that's because honestly, being a people person is actually such a big part of it. And I think when it comes into, like you say, getting other people on board on that team, getting them involved, having a reward for them and seeing the business grow. Like if you're not able to do that, they'll probably leave you. So I think a large part of what we do well as wedding photographers can really trickle over to running a team as well.
Mm. Hey, I was mentoring someone yesterday and they're just starting out as a wedding photographer. And the way they were like so excited about it and everything, it got me really excited. But they said a few things that kind of stopped me in my tracks. And one was, I want to quit my job. I want to be a full-time wedding photographer so I can work when I want to work and I can just work on the beach and I can wake up late and do all those things. Do you remember, because I absolutely do about myself, do you remember those times when it was like, happy-go-lucky and you remember all that and then all of a sudden you don't know where along the track did I lose that dream because now I'm just the admin man of my business?
I think you find, yeah, man, pretty early on, if you've got the idea that you're going to come in and just shoot the wedding and then, I don't know, man, pick up another destination wedding somewhere else and there's not this 90% of the work behind the scenes in answering emails and making timelines and running sheets, then you'll find it out eventually. But what a fantastic way. If that's what actually gets you started into a wedding photography career, then you've got to be thankful for it. But the good news is, man, that we're in obviously a stage here where so much of what other people have bought can be brought into your business. You don't really need to reinvent the wheel. Like I think a lot of us have had to when we've started. So the workflow, for instance, like the client journey, that's something that you can take from another photographer who spent years building, perfecting it, put it straight into your system, and then you're good to go. So it's easier today to just focus on shooting the weddings than it has been at any other stage.
Man, I absolutely agree. And it's so interesting. I actually had someone reach out to me the other day just on Instagram. They said, hey, I want to join the six-figure business map, but I don't want to join now because I'm going to do a year or two just to find my feet or whatever. And then I'll get onto it. But it's interesting, like we all work differently, but I think about when I make IKEA furniture, I hate doing it, but it's so much easier for me to read the instructions first before I struggle for 2 hours, then go back to the instructions. Or if I'm going to drive to the Yarra Valley or something, like for me to look at my path, like look at the map and then go like, that's the way I'm going to go, instead of going to get lost for 2 hours before I actually look at the map. And I think it's so often for some reason in business, we feel like we can do it on our own. We can find our own way. We can find our own workflow. We can struggle for a bit because that's part of business. But in reality, I don't think in this day and age, you have to actually go through and do the struggle. And so people that I've worked with that have gone from ground zero straight away and then have hit six figures within months, they've done these things straight away, taken someone else's workflow, they put in the systems in place straight away. They've outsourced and made systems to be able to outsource straight away. Like Rick, when you first started, imagine if you had that. Imagine your whole career, like how far ahead or how much more you could have and could do, and all the mistakes that you could miss because you're just like, yeah, man, it was easy. I've got a map and I went from A to B, and yeah,
you're right.
That's
it's all available now. So honestly, the biggest thing standing in your way is just the realization that it is there and that you can do it and you need to invest in it. Because I don't know, like when I think about how long I went without actually having a CRM, and I'm just like, what a freaking idiot.
Yes. I know when you have that realization, hey, it's like, it's even the same as me. It's like when I was using like Google Docs or an Excel spreadsheet. And I was like, why was I wasting all that time when a CRM costs barely anything? And then it's done.
My God. Yeah. The amount it gives you compared to what you're putting in there, the amount of time it's going to collectively save you. And like I said, with with the map as well, Jesus, the collective amount of experience and knowledge in that course that you can just harvest, put straight into your brain and not need to spend the years learning it is, I don't know, if you want to get lost for 2 hours, like that analogy you made trying to make a trip, like, okay, do it, but but there is a path here, there is a way, and it's there's a lot of awesome ones.
It's so interesting, man. And like I think like for yourself, a lot of people don't realize we have a certain amount of energy, we have a certain amount of time, and we need to really think about that energy and time. So getting lost for 2 hours is fine. But I think about, like, for yourself, for instance, the impact you can make when you buy back, let's just say, half an hour a day, just an extra half an hour, like that's it. Do you think for you, you'll be able to either rest and see your kids, so you're bringing back that energy and that drive and the purpose and the why and everything, or you could divert it to maybe marketing or meeting someone new or networking or going in and learning something, reading a book, listening to a podcast, doing a course? Like, do you think with that time spent, you can progress so much quicker?
Absolutely. And the faster I think people can come to terms with this, the better. So I'll give you an example. So if you were to spend, let's say, 4 hours a day doing something that somebody else could do for $7.50 an hour, then that is all you're earning. That's the wage that you're earning, because that's all you're saving yourself. Instead, this is what I love to do. I will outsource that. I will go on a bike ride. I will listen to a podcast, and make that combination of going on a bike ride, listen to a podcast, I will come home with an idea that I can implement, which is going to obviously smash whatever I've just spent on that 4 hours of somebody else doing that task for me.
So you're saying 4 hours, $7.50. So for $30, is it worth going out and exercising your brain, exercising your mind and your body?
100%, man. like for $30, like coming back with a business idea, strategy, like tell me you don't have, sorry, let me rephrase this. If there is nothing that you can think to be doing better with your time than something that somebody else could be doing for $7.50, if there's nothing that you could do to improve your marketing, hang out, improve your body, improve your mind, then all right, keep doing that thing. But I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you already know there is a ton of stuff that you could be doing that could be scaling your business, earning more revenue, getting more leads coming in, or actually just doing whatever you want to be doing with your time. So that's what's so good about this, is that we have options of getting other people to help us with those procedural tasks that really can be outsourced. We don't need to be doing it. So the faster you realize the opportunity cost of still doing those tasks, the much better off you're going to be.
Let's break down. I know a lot of people struggle with this. Break down having a bad experience with a VA and then giving up. I know a lot of people, and I've mentored people before, and they said, oh, my friends had a bad experience, or I had a bad experience, or I don't want to trust someone with my passwords. I don't want to trust someone with my clients, or whatever it is. Let's break that down and just talk about what we need to do to reset ourselves and be ready to take on a virtual assistant or an in-person assistant.
We can go through each one of those. So I don't want to trust someone with my passwords. No worries, you don't have to. We've got LastPass for that. LastPass is a way of securely sharing your login credentials with somebody where they don't actually get to see your login credentials, and you can take those privileges away just as soon as you give them. If you don't want clients hearing from somebody else, you can always then keep that as a high priority. You can spend your time then writing to your own clients or engaging with your clients, and then have your VA do other tasks that it's not communicating directly with your clients. And I will say a big part of that actually is just, if you've got a killer workflow in place and you're answering the questions your clients are going to ask you ahead of them ever needing to, solving those problems before they arise, then that's a big part of reducing the amount of communication that you're going to need to do. What else did you say? You've had a bad experience before with a VA. I had as well. I'm sure everyone, when they first start, before they learn how to do it, is going to have a bad experience. One of the biggest things that has helped me in training my VAs to get them into my brain has been Loom. So I screen record everything, and I make SOPs, standard operating procedures for now everything I do. Almost every day, I get the relief of seeing something that I don't want to ever have to do again. I record it. I'm verbalizing exactly what my process is, how I'm going through it. That goes into a document, and then that's the last time I ever have to do it, because I've trained myself. I know what the VA needs to get out there. I know the information that they need from me in order to be able to replicate that task accurately.
You talked about SOPs right there. Let's just break that down a little bit, because I know not everyone understands what standard operating procedures mean. But what does that actually look like for me if I'm just a photographer and
Yep.
everything's in my head.
So if you never want to do a bank reconciliation, again, this is something that's going to come up. So every month you're going to get an invoice from PickTime. Every month you're going to get an invoice from Studio Ninja, from your CRM, and these are going to need bank reconciliations. And you're probably spending your time going through doing these same tasks every single month. So if instead of doing them every single month, you take one of those times and you record the processes you're doing, where you're clicking, where you're having to log into PickTime to find the invoice, downloading that invoice, how you're uploading that invoice into Xero, basically which buttons you're pressing and why. Put that into a document. It will take a bit longer than just doing it yourself, but it just means once you've got that operating procedure of how to handle each one of those entries in your accounting software, then it just means that someone else can now replicate that procedure and you never have to do it again.
So you're basically saying that everything that I do, I can download from my brain and I can categorize it and I can file it away somewhere where someone else can access it.
Not everything we do. Obviously, a lot of it will still come, like, I'm not going to have a VA go and shoot a wedding, but you will get very good at knowing which tasks can be outsourced, which tasks are procedural, which tasks don't run the risk of needing creative input. And you might surprise yourself at just how much of a formula you actually create. So something like album design, you might think, obviously, that's a super creative thing. But once you start recording your process of why you build an album in this way, how many spreads you dedicate to the groom's prep, the bride's prep, what you like to do with the big group photo, how you handle all the family photos, you start to realize, okay, this is actually a formula that someone else can follow. And then you can give that to a VA and then you can review them doing it as well. So you're going over their work, you're recording yourself saying, okay, I actually would have done this way. And then it just makes you realize, yes, I wasn't clear enough on that. I didn't think about what happens in this scenario, but you just get better at it. But that exchange will mean that you'll have a lot more success rather than just hoping that they know exactly what you want to do. And if they come back and they don't know exactly what they want to do, then you think, well, this sucks.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about quickly. Do you have any practical tips for me if I'm thinking about going out there and outsourcing different tasks? So how can I actually prioritize the tasks that I want to do? On how can I identify things that I could actually hand off to someone else?
I start making lists. You love a good list, but just what am I doing on a day-to-day basis? What does my business require me to do? Which of these tasks do I not want to do? Which of these tasks do I love? Which are high priority tasks? What are the things that I could be doing with my time if I wasn't doing these tasks? And then if you can, from that list, you can start looking at which tasks are really procedural. So if I was to record everything I'm doing, is this something that somebody else would be able to then do for me? And you'll pretty quickly start to find, all right, yeah, when I make an Instagram highlight story, I'm just taking these images, I'm using Unfold, I'm putting them all into these different pages. And then when I want to post it to Instagram, I'm needing to tag in every one of the vendors on each one of those pages, making them small. Like that takes a shitload of time. And it's something that somebody else can do for you. And so you'll get better at this as you start, but once you begin to make those lists, really think about every time you're sitting at the computer or you're sitting on your phone, what am I doing right now? Is this something that somebody else could do? Then that's how you can start off.
I love it. And do you actually go through and work out how much of value, like put a value on each task so you can actually see like from the lowest value in terms of how much you could outsource it for to highest value in terms of, hey, this is actually me and no one can replace me. So the highest value is my time.
Correct, man. And you'll notice that as well. So if you're, reaching out to a venue because you're trying to build a relationship that's going to bring in a sustainable source of leads for the rest of your photography career, that's not something you want to outsource. You want to go there in person, build a rapport, and that's a great way to make sure that you're using your time to actually build revenue for your business. But yeah, something like making, Instagram carousels, posting to Pinterest, handling leads as they're coming in, applying different templates, doing your bank recs, magazine submissions, like so many of these things. I think once there's a formula, once there's something that it's kind of repeated every time you do it, then all right, this is now something I can not worry about, and I can now go out and build relationships with venues, because usually we just don't have time. There's all these things, especially like you watch a course and you can see, man, every one of those chapters, every one of those modules has got amazing things that you could be spending your time doing and growing and learning, but we're too busy editing our photos or doing the stuff that honestly somebody else could do.
Hey, so I know everybody has a threshold of what they would want to let go, and you identified it before with saying, "Hey, I wouldn't outsource my like shooting a wedding, right?" And there's a lot of people that do that, so they will have like associate shooters and stuff like that. So we all have a point of like, "Hey, I wouldn't actually outsource my editing because it's my special secret sauce that I put on there that no one else can do." Or wouldn't outsource my sales, or wouldn't outsource my emails and things like that. Do you think like as you start outsourcing things, and if you're in that situation, you should just start off with something small and then work your way up?
Absolutely. So, say editing in that example, I still like to edit around 100 images from a wedding. So after I shoot a wedding, the morning afterwards, I'll be going through, and in part, I actually need that validation. I need to say, all right, I didn't bugger this up. So I like to go through and edit these. But I know that basically after I've done those 100 best shots from the wedding, the rest of the emotional, like, I don't know, journey from those other, 1,000 photos that I'm going to deliver, or 800 photos, really the crux of it is in that 100. So I don't really feel like I'm running a massive risk in having somebody else then go and edit. And they've actually got a good indication from me from those 100 photos that I've edited. They say, all right, this is how I'm going to be editing the rest of the day. He's already got the temperature that he wants. He's the level of the highlights that he wants. So it's really good starting point for an editor to then go on that. And then they give me the chunk of that, like the large task of that work is then obviously the rest of that editing stage. But I've already nailed and perfected the 100 best images. So that's a good way to, I guess, get into outsourcing editing, which is going to be the biggest thing that you can outsource to save yourself time.
Let's talk about money, because I think a lot of people see outsourcing as a liability. So they see it as a price, like, oh man, but it's costing me so much money. And they don't see it as an investment. And so for myself, I personally, I actually outsource. I think I've got like maybe 4 VAs that work for me, and I insource. So I have like 4 or 5 full-time employees as well. And so I do both, but I see everyone as an investment, never a liability, because if they're a liability, I simply wouldn't hire them. It wouldn't make any sense. But do you think it's like a bit of a mindset shift where we need to start saying like, I know this is going to cost me a little bit in the long run, but the opportunities that it creates and the energy that I get back and my time that I get back, and then the opportunity costs of not having that time and being able to do those things. Do you think we need to like sort of shift our mindset around thinking about it as a liability towards thinking about it as an investment?
You said the two magic words there, right there, mate: opportunity cost. And it is a very big shift. Like I said at the start, we're all, as entrepreneurs, we're kind of naturally against this, just because we want to minimize the cost by doing things ourselves. And that's how we kind of got our business up and running. We built our own website, did our own design, did our own logos. But once you start to look at the things you're not able to do, then you just have to put a price on that. So all of these tasks that you're spending your time doing, that are getting in the way of you growing or scaling your business, because you will see, if you're listening to this podcast once again, you will know that there's other things you could be doing to grow your business. As soon as you start to look at the cost of you doing this task as the replacement value, basically $7.50 an hour, that's what I could be paying somebody else to do it. So is there a better use of my time where I could be earning more money or generating more leads, which are going to earn more money? So I know that when I outsource and automate the back end of my business, I can focus more time on shooting a high volume of weddings. I can earn $5,000 a day shooting a wedding. So I would want to be making sure I can shoot as many weddings as possible versus spending my time doing the editing, doing the back end. So if I'm choosing to not shoot a wedding, to not earn that $5,000 because I want to focus on my special sauce of doing the editing, then it's costing me that $5,000 wedding. So that's the opportunity cost.
It's huge, isn't it? Like, I think for me, and a cool story for everybody, like I scaled my business to 500,000 a year pretty quickly when I first started, because I realized that I was a tradesman, right? So I'm a workhorse. I can just show up and work and work. I don't really get wedding hangovers. Like, man, give me 5 in a row all day long, no worries. And what I realized was, because the editing was stopping me, I needed to hire someone full time to do the editing for me, because now I could shoot 2 weddings per week and I could take it 2 days off per week as well, while someone else is editing my photos. And then I could even shoot 3 weddings per week or even 4 weddings per week. So now I was putting the high value task in front. So instead of making 5,000 a week, potentially some weekends I was making 20,000. And so I exploded my income without that much extra effort from myself.
Absolutely, man. Well, so let's look at the maths here. So if you're just shooting 1 wedding a week, let's say you're charging $5,000 and you want to save yourself the cost of outsourcing. So you stick. So you're like, all right, 1 wedding a week, that's about all I can do to prevent burnout. And now you're shooting 4 times that amount. So now you're getting 20 grand a week. And how much is outsourcing that load going to cost you? So I don't know.
I had a full-time employee, so
a month,
it's about $1,000 a week.
Okay, so even at 4 grand a week, so you're earning 20 grand, and your expenses have raised to 4,000. So the difference then is $16,000. So that's your opportunity cost of doing the editing yourself. That's actually costing you $16,000. And
Exactly.
like I totally agree, man, on the I feel when people talk about getting burnout of doing too many weddings, I think that really applies to the other stuff. I'm the same as you. I like an 8-hour day. I'm shooting weddings, 15 minutes from home. Like I look at the hospitality staff, they're doing double shifts. Like, they're working twice as much as me. I get to hang out, have a party, come home,
be in the sun, drink a cocktail, take a couple of photos, meet some people.
Even at 100 weddings a year, that's only, that still leaves 265 days a year that you're not out there working. Like it's not a huge load.
Totally. And that's how I've always seen it. I was like, man, this is actually the easiest thing ever. Hey, so another couple of funny things is like, so if we're talking about liabilities and investment, and this is a few things that I've done before. Imagine if I said to you, Rick, hey, can I come work for you? I do want $100,000 wage retainer. That's what I want from you. Okay. But this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to go and make some relationships for our business, your business, with some venues. I'm going to go and show up every month at least. I'm going to go and find you some new clients, and I'm going to fill up your pipeline so you have clients every single weekend. Would you say at the start that like $100,000, like that's a bit rich? I'm definitely not doing that. But then by the end, would you be like, well, if it cost me 100,000 and I never have to think about marketing and all that sorted, and someone else is editing, maybe I only have to work 1 or 2 days a week, and I'm making a few $100,000. Like, would you say that is a good investment?
Of course, man, no brainer.
Here's the thing. People don't really realize this. If you hired me right now, let's just say, for instance, you make $200,000 a year, and then you hired me for 100,000. But right now you work 6 days a week because you have to work 6 days a week, right? But when you hired me, now you work 2.5 days a week. What actually happens is you make less money, but your hourly rate skyrockets and your business value skyrockets and your leverage skyrockets. Now, so many of us, we're trying to look at something so small, like, hey, but I'm losing half my profits. But it's like, wait a second. But you also increased your value, increased your time spent, the impact that you're making, because you're spending less time making that money now, the 100,000. But then with that extra time, could you make
4.5 days a week?
Yeah, could for the 4.5 days a week, could you make another couple of, maybe a few 100,000 now that you have that extra time? And so yeah. I just think like no one ever thinks about it like that,
It's funny once you start down this path and you realize, okay, whatever I'm spending on a VA, I am making tenfold. So it actually trains you. I know I started part-time, immediately went full-time, then got a second one on, a third one, fourth one. And I'm just kind of addicted now to the growth there that I can do. That almost like, I don't know, infinite boundaries of if I can think of something, if I can conceive of something, then I know I've got a team there to go and research, make it happen, engage, do everything behind the scenes. So I really feel like I've got limitless potential. It takes I think starting down that path. Like if I was trying to do everything myself, there's no way I would ever break out of shooting 30 weddings a year.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I think as creative entrepreneurs, we don't really look at it like this. And I know a lot of people even look at me and they see the resistance of like, hey, but you've got so much stuff. Like, why would you do that to yourself? And why wouldn't you edit your own photos? And why wouldn't you do, whatever it is? But I think you realize after a while that like, hey, man, I'd rather sit there on a podcast and know that my photos are still getting edited in the other room, and know someone's still making a video for me, and know someone still can do a blog post for me, know someone's still reaching out to someone, and still making income. And so that means I can put myself at the forefront of like only high value tasks always. And then the impact that I can make compared to anyone else is huge. Because imagine for yourself at home right now, if you could just do high value tasks, imagine what your life would look like. Imagine the impact, imagine your income. Would you agree?
You don't even need to imagine, man. You just need to turn on your computer and listen to everything you're saying, because you're listening to someone who's doing that.
Yeah. But like, I think sometimes like you can see it, but you can't imagine it for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
It's
So
like it
what is
works for
that?
someone else, but it's not going to work for my business because I edit everything.
Yeah, because I've got the special sauce. So that's what. Yeah, look, it's a curse, but as soon as you break through that, so then just start small. And if there's something that all right, this is going to be a high value task. This is going to be something that's going to bring revenue in. I'm going to build this relationship with the venue because I know I'm going to get 100 leads a year from them, and that's going to be tens of thousands of dollars. But I don't have the time right now because I'm doing this thing. So let's start with that. I'm going to outsource this thing, and I'm going to use that time to build that relationship. All right, now I'm getting revenue from that. Let's see what else I can outsource. All right, this is clearly a relationship that works, and it will, and it has, and it always has. That's why, obviously, look around, the most successful people obviously are built on teams. Like, they're not doing.
No one does it by themselves.
Everybody
not
think
one big company is built by themselves.
Every successful podcast host you got to be listening to, they're editing every episode, doing the social media behind every episode. So I think we've got a lot of people to emulate here, and it's clearly a very obvious thing that works. There's going to be things in your business that somebody else can do for you. And fortunately, in the state of the world, we don't need to have, I don't know, people in our office. There are tasks for that, but we've got a great system of outsourcing to virtual assistants that can really help you get through this thing at not a great expense.
So awesome. And for everyone listening, you can also insource. So that's probably another episode that I'll probably do down the track, but insourcing is also an incredible way because you can bring together a community of people on a single goal, and it can be really cool. So outsourcing, definitely starting small with just one small task that you can hand off to someone, get comfortable with it, see how you can get a bigger return, see what you can do with that saved time. And then from there, like, you can start adding more time, more tasks to someone else until you feel really comfortable and you can start actually growing and scaling that business. So thank you so much, Rick, for being on the show. Where can we find you, and what services do you have? Because I know you've just started something where you're making it so much easier for wedding photographers to find themselves a virtual assistant.
So weddingworkflows.com. You guys head there. You can grab I've got a free follow-up questionnaire you can download. You can jump on my my mailing list, and that's where I'm going to be hitting you up with everything that I offer. But basically, the workflow side of the business. So if you're running a CRM and you're thinking about how can you improve your client journey? How do you reduce those emails that they need to get in touch with you? The amount of time that you're spending on everything from the lead coming in to the happy anniversary email. I've made a workflow here that will be installed directly into your CRM. So you can then go in, personalize it, but it's just going to be a massive time saver for you. And then we've also got the virtual assistant agency. So we'll be finding, training, background checks, virtual assistants in the Philippines to work on your schedule, work on your business, and they will be trained in basically what they're already doing for me. So you're leveraging my months of putting together my standard operating procedures, and you don't need to do that because that's obviously a big barrier to you starting with it. So you can kind of just hit the ground running straight away. If you're in Australia, you've got a pretty busy wedding season, I'm imagining, starting in November. So this is something you can get underway before we kick off.
So my follow-up question is, will this work for people all around the world?
I've got users all around the world. If you're shooting weddings, then this is going to be something that's working for you. If you use social media, if you edit photos, if you make slideshows, if you make blogs, if you submit to magazines, this will work for you.
Love it. And just to finish off, if you haven't looked at Rick's website yet, his actually wedding photography website, it looks so good. I was just checking it out, and my wife Lilo actually did the branding, which is so cool.
Perfect example, man, of
Exactly.
me needing to realize that, well, I was doing my branding myself. And it wasn't until I used Lilo's that I realized, man, mine sucked before. Like, look at how I look now. Like, I feel, this is what I told her in the thing, like, I finally feel represented in my branding. Like, I feel like, yes, that's me. And I didn't realize how much I wasn't representing myself, and how much I was letting myself down until I got someone who is actually a designer. Because I had to make that realization, like, even though I can probably teach myself how to try to use this, Illustrator program, and, I can figure out the pen tool. I'm not a designer. I can get someone who is, and the impact that that's had has just been amazing. That's so much amazing feedback from her work. So that was just, yeah, a no-brainer investment.
I love that. Can I leave you with a little secret?
Just tell me though.
Man, people get so hung up that they don't have all the skills. They didn't go to university for whatever. They didn't get the education. That maybe they're not the architect, maybe they're not the lawyer, maybe they're not the designer, whatever it is. But we forget we can pay the experts. You can pay the very best in the world to represent you, represent your brand, to create something that you love, something that you're proud of. And we forget it sometimes because we put it on our own plates. And guess what? We are not the pro designers. We're not pro anything else really, except what we do. And if we stay in our own lane and pay those experts, guess what? You're going to have something that's next level.
Mad results, man. 100%. Preaching to the choir, Joe. Love it.
Thank you, Rick, man. I really appreciate you jumping on. I know this episode is going to help so many people because this is just a question that comes up over and over. Thank you for extending out your services to all my community and everything as well, because I know people just need to get back some time so they can get back into learning and so they can get back into scaling their business. So I appreciate you.
Oh, dude, if they do nothing else with their time but listen to every one of your episodes, like, tell me they're not going to scale their business and they're not going to pay off that VA.
They're definitely going to pay off their VA. Thank you, man.